Good morning. This is pre-algebra for Monday, April the 6th. I hope you had a great time of service with your family. I hope you watched it on the internet, and I hope that you were blessed by it. I hope you're still looking for ways to help your family. Try to be a good testimony, please. That's so important. Okay, today we are going to continue working on lesson 79. We're not starting a new lesson, we are continuing it. Okay, we're going to do several problems on the board. Please make sure you're doing these on your paper and that you're keeping your paper so that you can turn it in. Okay, I need those papers, okay? Let's look at, to begin with, let's look at number 11. Number 11 on problem set 79, that is page 223. Problem 11 says, write this number. And if you look at that, just for practice sake, the first three units are our units. The next three zeros are the thousands. The next three are the millions. And the last three are the billions. So if we were to read this number, we would read it as 103 billion. Now I wrote the number on the board for us, and we want to write it into scientific notation. Rule number one with scientific notation. My number has to be between what two numbers? Between 1 and 10. So to do that, I have to bring my decimal all the way over here, 1.03. Now I'm going to multiply that by powers of 10. How many places did I move it? Okay, obviously it starts here, so I'm moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 places. So it's to the power of 11. The question is that a positive 11 or a negative 11? Okay, I hope that you said it was a positive 11 because it is, okay? How do I know that? If I'm going to check this, if this is a positive number in my scientific notation, I'm going to move my decimal to the right, making my number larger. Okay, look at number 12. It says you have 3 1/2 of what number is 4,200. Let's look at this problem. Let's think about what we learned. Think about our pattern. We know that the word of means to what? Means to multiply. We know that the word is means to what? It means it equals. This is going to be really stretched out today. That's okay. I have the fraction of 3 1/2. I know I can't multiply by that, so I'm going to go on and change that to an improper fraction. 3 1/2 becomes what improper fraction? 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7 1/2. Okay, so we have 7 1/2 times what number? Well, we'll use the letter N equals what? 4,200. Now this is really stretched out because I just did it right under the words, but I wanted you to remember, I want you to think, where does Mrs. Turner get these numbers? Where does she get these signs? Clue words, clue words. Just like when you were in kindergarten and your kindergarten teacher, she held up a picture of an apple and she said, A says in apple, and then she taught you that if there's one vowel in a word, it usually says it's short sound. That was your clue. When you were in kindergarten, you'd look at that word and says, oh, it only has one vowel. That vowel is short. Or you should say if there were 2 vowels in a word, the first vowel is long and the second vowel is silent. Okay? You probably remember doing that. Okay? So when you were learning to read, you would look for those clues as to whether to make it a long vowel or a short vowel. In math, in pre-algebra, we still look for clues. We look for key words, okay? Now, so we have 3 1/2. Now we have 7 halves times n equals 4,200. Now, I'm gonna write this as an equation just a little closer together just to make it a little more readable to us, okay? When I put 7 halves over next to n, all I did was drop this multiplication sign because when a fraction and a number are side by side, it means to multiply. What am I going to do here? 2 rules in equations. The first rule is do the opposite of what you're told. It tells you to multiply, so you're going to divide. Okay, we know when we divide a fraction, we actually are using its reciprocal. So we're going to put the reciprocal here. We're going to multiply because it says 2. What's rule number 2? Whatever you do on the left, you must do on the right. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to multiply by 2 over 7. Now these are going to cancel, leaving me only the n. Over here, I'm going to reduce this by saying 7 divided by 7 is 1. 7 goes into 42 6 times with 2 more zeros. Now I can multiply 600 times 2 is 1,200. And there's my answer. Let's look at the shape that's on the board. If you have a hard time seeing my shape, try to zoom in or fix your pixel. If all else fails, look at the one in your book. My drawing is not as nice as Mr. Saxon's in the book, but nevertheless, it's there. All right, our problem says find the volume in cubic meters of this right solid whose base is the figure shown on the left, excuse me, and the sides are 5 meters high. We're looking for volume. How do you find volume? Volume equals base times height. All there is to it. Does it matter the shape? It's base times height. Okay, so here we go. Volume equals the total area, okay, or our base, our total area, and we're going to find that, we're going to multiply that by the height. The question is not how to find the volume. The question is, how do I find that area? How do I find the area of this weird shape? Well, really, when you look at this shape, there's going to be 3 shapes. First, there's the semicircle. So we're going to say the volume's going to be the area of the semicircle. Okay? To that area of the semicircle, I have this weird thing. I don't have a way to find the area of a weird thing. I have to do what? I have to divide the weird thing into 2 normal things, okay? So let's divide it right there. When I divide it, I now have a square. So I'm going to add to it the area of the square. And what do I have left? A triangle. So I'm going to add the area of the triangle. Once I add those 3 areas together, what do? I multiply it by the height. So times height. Now, let's figure out how to do this. Since these are all very common formulas to us, I think we can just real quickly be able to do this. First, we're looking at this. We have a we have a radius of 5. Okay, since we have a radius of 5, how do I find the area of a semicircle? Well, I'm going to say pi times radius squared divided by 2. I'm going to have to erase this underneath it. All right, so I just told you that the radius was what? It's 5. So we're going to say pi times 5 squared divided by 2. Look at the next one. It is the area of the square. Of course, we can say area is side times side, or side square, or we can say length times width. It's all of those things. So we're just going to put length times width. What is the length and the width of our square? Each side is a square. Each side is 10. So we have 10 times 10. Now we have the area of our triangle. How do you find the area of a triangle? Base times height divided by 2. Good job, guys. Okay, what is the base of our triangle? Well, the whole thing is 15, but remember the first 10 is the square, so what's left? Just the 5. So we have 5 times the height. What's the height of it? It's the same as the square, so it is 10. And we're going to divide by 2. Once we've done all of these things inside our brackets, we're going to do what? Multiply it by the height. The height was told to us in our story problem. It's a height of 5. Whoops. There. All right, so now let's go through this. The volume equals pi times 5 squared, which is 25, divided by 2. So this is going to be 12.5 times pi. Plus, we have to say 10 times 10 is 100. Then We say 5 times 10 divided by 2 is 25. We're going to multiply that by 5. So what are we going to do now? We're going to go back. We have to first multiply our 12.5 times pi. What is pi? 3.14. Good job. So if I say 3.14 times 12.5, I'm going to find out that it's 39.25. Okay, then I have to add 100, add my 25, and multiply by 5. When I add my 3 individual areas, the area of the semicircle, the area of the square, and the area of the triangle together, I'm going to say 39.25 plus 100 plus 25. That's going to give me 164.25. What am I going to do with it now? I need to multiply it by the height. Okay? Once I multiply 164.25 times 5, I'm going to get 821.25. What kind of unit? It's not meters. It's not meters squared. It's what? Meters cubed. Okay? The reason it's meters cubed, when I multiply my area, that's area squared. Okay? Then I multiply by my 5 meters, and I have to multiply my unit as well. So I have meters squared and meters. That gives me cubic meters, okay? I hope those are all making sense to you. Let's look at another one real quickly. We don't have a lot of time left, but I'd like to do another one because the more I do with you on this paper, the less homework you have, all right? Let's look at the next one. It says, find the surface area of a circular cylinder whose diameter is 4 meters and whose height is 10 meters. Well, first of all, when you're finding surface area, what do you have to find? We have to find the surface area means I want to do what? I want to wrap it up like it's a Christmas present. So I'm going to have the area of the top, the area of the bottom. Okay? So I'm going to say area of the top plus area of the bottom, plus I have to have the area around it, right? But we don't call it the area of the round, we call it the area of the rectangle. We pretend if I cut that down the middle and I open it up flat, we would find that the middle part of a cylinder would make a rectangle, okay? So we're gonna say we want the area of the rectangle. Now, let's look back at our story problem. Our story problem tells us that the diameter is 4 meters. But if I'm looking for surface area and I've got to find the area of the top, what's my formula? My formula is pi times radius square. Since it's pi times radius square for the top and the bottom, okay, we're going to write that up here, pi times radius square. And the area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, with that knowledge, knowing that this is radius square, I have to go back to my story problem and say, what's the radius? Well, the radius of this is only 2, okay? So we have pi times 2 squared plus pi times 2 squared. Now let's look at our length and the width of our rectangle. It tells us that, well, first of all, because it's a cylinder, we know that we're going to use pi. And then we're going to multiply that by the what? The diameter and the height. So we're going to say pi times diameter times height. Now, so let's multiply this out. We have 4 pi plus 4 pi plus diameter. I didn't fill those in. The diameter of this is a 4 and the height is 10. So if this was a 4 and this was 10, what would I have? I would have 40 pi. Okay? Now, Once I have those, what's my next step? My next step is to add them all together. So I have 4 plus 4 plus 40, giving me 48. So I have 40, surface area of this particular cylinder is 48 times pi. Again, what is pi? 3.14. When I multiply 3.14 times 40, I get 150.72. Now, this is surface area. It's in meters. What kind of label do I have? I have meters squared. Okay, so the surface area of this cylinder was 150.72 meters squared. Let's look back at your book. We're going to look at number 17. This is the last one we're going to look at. Okay, this is the last problem I'm going to work out with you. But it says 2 1/2 over 5 1/3 equals 8 over x. Okay, what am I going to do? We're going to cross multiply. Okay, so we have 2 1/2 x equals 5 1/3 times 8. What do I need to do? I need to make all of these improper. So 2 times 2 plus 1 is 4, it's 5. 5 over 2x equals, this is going to be 16 over 3 times 8 over 1. Okay, bear with me. Now, I need to get rid of this 5 over 2. It says to multiply. What am I going to do? I'm going to divide. When I divide, I'm going to use the reciprocal. Say, Mrs. Turner, you haven't solved that. Yes, I know. Put 2 over 5, but whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the right. Now, I can do all of this at one time. This cancels, leaving me only x. Now I can look at all 3 of these fractions and say, what can I cancel? I can cancel nothing. Okay, so, excuse me, we need to multiply. Okay, I can say 16 times 2 is 32. And then say 32 times 8. Do I have to do that? No, I could say 8 times 2 is 16 and 16 times 16. Okay, they're multiplications. I can do them in any order that I want. Okay, now when I do them, I'm going to multiply and I'm going to get 256. What about the bottom? 3 times 1 times 5 is 15. Okay, this will not reduce, so 256